the Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Hello, thanks for downloading and listening to the podcast. This is the Best in the World with Richard Parr. It does exactly what it says on the tin. We interview the best athletes on the planet, and of course, I'm Richard Parr. See, it does exactly what it says on the tin, and we continue to learn from the greatest sports men and women on the planet, whether they're Olympic champions, world record holders, world number ones. They are here on the Best in the World with Richard Parr podcast, which you can download on iTunes, Stitcher, on Overcast, all different types of platforms. Even on my website, richardparr.net, you can learn from the best athletes on the planet. And because the Olympic Games have started, we have got a gold medalist on this week's show. I'm so pumped for you to hear my interview with Kerri Pottharst. She won beach volleyball gold on home soil in Sydney 2000. She is motivating and inspiring, and there is so much that you can learn, whether you're an aspiring volleyball player, an aspiring athlete, an aspiring business person, an aspiring anything. You can learn from Kerri Pottharst. She is fantastic on this show. So get ready to learn from the very best on the Best in the World with Richard Parr. Before we get to Kerri, I want to tell you about this week's sponsor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/best. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. That address again is audibletrial.com/best. If you don't know how to spell it, I'll spell it out for you. audibletrial.com. Best. All right, I didn't spell the .coms and the bests, but I think you can probably spell that. But audibletrial.com/best for your free audiobook download and 30-day free trial. It will help you because you're learning from the greatest, and it will help me as well because they are my sponsors of this show. That's a bit of the business out the way, but you're going to learn business lessons from Kerri Pottharst. She's the Olympics beach volleyball champion from 2000 in Sydney. Alongside Natalie Cook, she won bronze at the 1996 Atlanta Games, 4 years later turning that bronze into gold in Sydney. So much to learn from Kerri this week. In particular, she tells us the 3 important areas for success. And she also explains the 3 different types of Olympians that appear at every different Olympic Games from Sydney up until now at the 2016 Rio Olympics. If you're into goal setting, which I think a lot of you are if you listen to the Best in the World with Richard Parr, then this is the podcast for you. Kerri is an accomplished motivational speaker. You'll see that a lot in this podcast. There's so much to learn from her, and I think you'll really, really benefit from her knowledge. She's, of course, got a book. We'll mention that a little bit later, which you can read and learn more about her. But let's get to it. Let's get to the Best in the World with Kerri Pottharst. She's up next.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Kerri Pottharst, welcome to the Best in the World with Richard Parr. It's 16 years since you won that gold medal. What's going on in your life right now, though?
Yeah, it seems like such a long time ago, doesn't it? Look, the great thing is that I'm actually going to be attending the Olympic Games. I'm going to be in Rio, and I'm going to be enjoying the Olympics once again. Since Sydney, I've been lucky enough. I played another Olympics. I played in 2004. I had a brief retirement, but then, as most athletes do, I came back. And then in 2008, I commentated. And then in London 2012, I also commentated for our national network. And this time I'll be in Rio, and I'm going to be just helping out with our sponsors, doing a little bit of work for one of our national networks, TV networks, but just basically soaking it all up. So very glad that every 4 years I can get back and enjoy the Olympics. But yeah, all sorts of things going on between the Olympics. I don't even know where to start. Fire away, ask me something, and we'll see if we can find something to start on.
Oh, I've got so much to get through with you. But what I wanted to just ask you about there is when you said you came out of retirement, how did that happen? Were you just kind of just sitting at home going, oh, I need to compete, or was it something you kept thinking about? How would that all come about when you would decide to come back?
Well, I played for another year after winning a gold medal, and I really enjoyed it, but my body really was starting to, I guess, break down. I'd had 5 knee surgeries, many knee injuries, but 5 knee surgeries at that point. And I always said that it was either my knees or the fact that I might want to start a family that would stop me and retire me. So at the time, I decided to retire to start a family with my partner at the time. And then things didn't go so well, didn't go to plan with my partner. So, we split up, and I just went, you know what, I think I might want to play again. And I was approached by another player in Australia, and she said, come on, let's see if we can qualify for the Athens Olympics. And we had about 8 months to do that. And we made it. So it was really because of a relationship breakup. I guess I thought I was ready to retire, but when things in my personal life changed, I just went back to what I knew best, and that was sport and what I loved.
When you weren't playing competitively, were you still in good shape? Would you still stay fit? Was it something which was just ingrained in your life? Would you work out? Would you play socially? Or did you almost have to start from square one again when it came to the fitness levels?
Well, I'd only really been out of action for not quite a year. And during that time, I had dropped my training regime a bit. I was playing just, I guess, at a state or national level. I wasn't kind of playing hit and giggle sort of sport. I was still playing at a serious, when I played, I was serious type level, but not as much. So I probably cut back about half as much, and I was just enjoying just doing other things. And yeah, it didn't take long to get back into shape, playing shape. I think it's like riding a bike with many sports that are very skill based. Have a little bit of time off. You're a bit rusty when you get back, but it doesn't take you long to get the skills back. And then I worked very hard on my fitness. So I actually took up boxing, which was different. Did a lot of boxing workouts because it was a lot easier on my legs, but it was great for my upper body. So really helped keep me physically fit. And and that really worked really well. So I really enjoyed it. It was a bit of a different type of journey with a younger partner, and a lot of challenging, I guess, emotional issues when you're playing with two people. It can be very much like being in a relationship. So apart from the challenges when you're playing an opponent, you're also challenged in relating to each other. So yeah, it taught me a lot of lessons.
Mm. So, as you said, you've got a lot going on right now. I was looking on your website and your Twitter, and one of the things I saw is you've got a book coming up soon, going to be released soon, The Business of Being an Athlete. Is that true, and what's it all about?
It's kind of half true, Richard. I actually already released that book.
Your website needs updating then, I'm afraid.
Well, yeah, my husband's in IT, so we'll have to get on that one. You know, when you get so busy doing all sorts of things, or those, who looks at websites these days anyway? It's all about social media, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, look, I put out a book a couple of years ago called The Business of Being an Athlete. I wanted to leave a bit of a legacy for not only sports people, but for anybody looking to succeed in life. So I wrote the book it's really about success. Definitely success and how to get it being an athlete, but it can be applied to small business, to relationships, to anything really, and covers the 3 areas that I believe are incredibly important for success, and that is passion, preparation, and belief. So for me, you have to love what you do. You've got to develop that passion in order to be the best in the world at it. Preparation is all the hard work, the planning, the goal setting. As an athlete, it's the training, but also the work that you do off the court. We did a lot of work trying to find sponsors, working with the media. So I go into a lot of that as well. And then the final piece of the puzzle is belief, because if you don't have that self-belief, if you don't really have the belief that you can get to where you want to go, you have to find a way to build it. And so I talk a lot about how we built our belief. And, that was the final piece of the puzzle, which got us across the line. So I wanted to write something that I could really set that all out in. And obviously it's full of my stories, but it's also very practical, and you can pick it up at any point and just go by the chapter headings and pick out an area that interests you on that day.
Well, that's awesome. That's exactly what we try to do on this show. Try to help people who are not just athletes, but also learn from you guys the best in the world of things that can be applicable in people's everyday lives. So that's awesome. I'll definitely put a link to that on my Twitter and website, and I'll get a copy myself because that sounds an awesome book. And you also do a lot of motivational speaking, and I saw that part of that you talk about is overcoming fear and doubt. Now, I don't want to give you for you to give away too much of what you do in your motivational speaking, because I want people still to book you and not to give everything away here. But maybe if you could just explain one of the crucial techniques that you teach in your speaking about overcoming fear and doubt.
Yeah, well, I realised very early on that, first of all, while we were still playing sport, that I could speak about what we were doing, and we could earn a bit of an income, which helped us pay for coaching and travel and trips like that. So I started doing quite a bit of speaking when I was still playing, and have continued to do it up until this very day. And when I get back from the Olympics, I've got 5 speaking jobs in 1 week.
Wow.
And that's a big week. That's probably a record week. But I'm still speaking frequently around Australia and sometimes overseas. And I do touch a lot on fear and doubt, because it really is what holds us back. Often we feel that we can't do something, or somebody tells us we can't do something, or we're conditioned from, being a little kid, if our parents don't believe in us in some way, or say something that sticks with us forever and a day about whether we can achieve something. Oh, no, you can't do that, or no, we're not good enough to be able to have what the Joneses have, or do you know what I mean? So, so many people come into, whether it's their career or their sport, with different fears and doubts. And then there are those people that just don't seem to have any, and the only difference is what they're thinking and what's going through their mind and what they're focusing on. So I talk a lot about the fears and the doubts that Natalie and I had, and the biggest one was winning the Olympic Games, obviously, not ever having won an event before that, I must say. We came second and third many, many times, but we actually hadn't cracked a win leading into the Games. We did after the Games as well, because we then had that extra little bit of belief, and it took us a bit further. But we had to develop ways of believing in ourselves that kind of went past playing our sport. So we did things like walking on broken glass and hot coals to just, just to push us past what we thought was possible. And that's all it really is. It's realizing that fear is just something. It's just a thought. Doubt is just a thought. Obviously, if something is dangerous, we need to be afraid and we need to be careful. But doubt is not dangerous. Doubt is just a wasteful thought. When we have doubt about whether we can do something. And, everything that I've gone through life with, I've kind of looked and gone, well, if that person could do it, I can do it. I mean, we're all born the same. We're all born with 2 arms, or most of us 2 arms and 2 legs. And we all have the opportunity, or most of us, again, have the opportunity to achieve, whatever we want to achieve. It's just our doubts sometimes, and obviously circumstances, of course, as well, but often it's our doubt, our self-doubt, that holds us back. And so that's why building that belief is so very important. So we did the glass walking and the fire walking, and we did all kinds of planning, and our coach would welcome us onto a plane and say, welcome onto the plane, Sydney Olympic 2000 gold medalist Natalie Cook. And he would then, and it was 1998, so it was before the Olympics even, and he would just always push us out of our comfort zone and get us ready to win and build that belief in any way he could, because we didn't have the win on the board to go in with. So we looked at all the other areas that we could use to build that belief.
Well, that's fascinating, the way He would call you Olympic champions before you're even champions. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of things like visualization of you imagining that moment when you got the winning point, or you were standing on the podium, or anything like that?
Yeah, we did. We actually even had a creed that we read to ourselves each day, which was called "I'm an Olympic gold medalist." You know, I'm a gold medalist. I'm the best server in the world. I'm this. I'm that. So it was all about us living into what we wanted to become. And every day we would read that. You know, and at first it was very difficult to say out loud and read, I'm a gold medalist. It hadn't happened yet. But eventually it kind of starts to sink in and you start to act like one. And that was the whole key. So we put together what we call our Gold Medal Excellence Plan. And that was named like that because we didn't go to the Olympics to win a gold medal. Our aim was to live our lives as if we were Olympic gold medalists in the year and a half leading up to the Olympics. And then if we did that successfully, we would pick up the Olympic gold medal along the way. So that was our theory. So for 18 months, we acted like Olympic gold medalists. And that's when he announced us on the plane, or announced Natalie on the plane as Olympic gold medalists, as a bit of fun, made her feel a bit uncomfortable. But it was just to get us ready. And so we trained like Olympic gold medalists would train. We ate like they would. We rehabilitated injuries. We tried to have the same thoughts. You know, if there was something we could find out about what an Olympic gold medalist does, we would find it out and we would try and do it. So it's modelling. You know, you're modelling who you want to become. And we modelled all sorts of different people, and we came up with a plan that we called our Gold Medal Excellence Plan. And on that, it actually had the characteristics of the type of person we knew we had to be in order to win the gold medal. It had a whole lot of other things on there as well. It had rules that we abided by. It had all the things we had to do on the volleyball court to be able to beat every team in the world. And it also had a very strong purpose, our why, which we went back to when things weren't going so well. So we always were reminded of why we were doing that. And the funny thing is one of those whys, which I always come back to, was that we wanted to inspire others and, inspire and lift others and help them reach their goals and dreams. And we'd written that 2 years before winning a gold, because we knew that by winning a gold, it would be a vehicle for us to inspire other people, and that was of interest to us. So, it was very well planned out. It was very well executed in the time leading up to the Olympics. And I think, we were ranked third in the world, so we had a realistic chance of making the final. But the team we played in the final had won everything pretty much leading up to the games. And we'd beaten them one time in 17 matches over the previous 2.5 or 3 years. So, we didn't have a very good record against them, obviously. Nobody did, because they were winning everything. But we just had such a belief that was our day. Everything was built around winning and going through that day. It's like putting your hand through a board, in karate or taekwondo, and you go through the board, you go past the board. We went past and through the gold medal. We just acted like Olympic gold medalists, picked up the gold medal along the way and kept on running. So, and we planned what we were going to do after the gold medal. So there was so much thought put into what we did. It wasn't just train hard, harder, longer, more. It was very well thought out, and it was all about our mindset.
Training smarter. I love this. You mentioned for this plan, you would model around certain champions and athletes. Who were the people you modeled yourselves on? Do you remember? And was there any traits in particular that you wanted to get out of them when you were doing this?
Yeah, so there wasn't any one person in particular. It was just that we kind of looked at people, and we did it in a bit of a brainstorm, and we thought, okay, so what are champion athletes? What are champion business people? What are successful people in this world? What sort of characteristics do they have? And, we had things like strong in emotion and spirit. They were powerful, but they were certain. They would never give up. all sorts of different characteristics. And I can share this plan with you. And well, in fact, it's in my book. Better still,
I'm going to buy the book. I'll buy the book. Don't you worry.
So there's a plenty of characteristics that we figured we could become. So there's sometimes you look at a champion and go, well, that's a characteristic that I don't really have in me. I don't want to be like that. But we looked at the things that we thought, right, that's what most people have. That's something we can do. Yep, I can be powerful. Yep, I can be really certain. If you're a person that's always going, well, I'm not really sure, and okay, maybe what do you think? That's not being certain. As champions and successful people are very certain. They make a decision and then they go and do it. So, we also had things like, lifting other people up, because we knew that by lifting others up, we would be lifting ourselves up. So, we also wanted our opponents to be strong when they played against us. That was one of the things we had in the game part. So, it wasn't so much about us being better than everybody else. It was almost about us being as good as everybody else, but the people that we wanted to be as good as were the people that were successful.
Well, I'm guessing with this plan, you would have very specific pre-match routines and rituals. Could you maybe tell our listeners what they were like on important match days, maybe in the final of the Olympics, what you would be going through?
Well, we had our own routines, and we just we didn't want to change anything, especially at the Olympics or even in the gold medal match. So, they were specific warm-up things. Natalie would have a rub down, maybe get something strapped if something needed to be strapped. We would get our uniforms ready. I would always wear my hat backwards. That was just something that became a bit of a routine thing. It didn't really matter if I didn't, but I just always did. And so it was a bit of a good luck charm, I guess. And, look, it wasn't a set out routine. The only routine I had when I was playing was a service routine, because when you're alone with the ball standing at the baseline, you're just about to serve with it. Excuse me, whether you're in tennis or volleyball or anything, and, there's nobody affecting what you're about to do. You are in your own world, and anything can happen, and your thoughts will affect how you strike the ball or kick the ball or whatever you're about to do to kick off the point, the rally. So the only time I had a routine there was when I would get distracted if there was a lot of crowd noise, or it was, getting tight, or it was match point, and I would use my service routine, which was basically hold the ball, look down at my foot, look at the line, and in my head I would go ball, foot, line, toss, hit. And I'd toss the ball and hit it, and I'd see my arm. I'd actually picture my arm following through to the target, as I was standing there before I tossed the ball. So that was a little skill routine I had, and all the others were just pretty simple, put your sunnies on, put your hat on backwards, make sure all your bottles are filled with all the good stuff. Nothing specific around that.
What is the good stuff? What kind of nutrition and drinks would you have when you were competing?
Electrolyte drinks around back then, and we're talking 16 years ago, so it was probably all pretty crappy. I don't have anything specific these days. I do use Isagenix nutritional products now, and I actually do the business of Isagenix now, which is a health and wellness company. But I didn't do that while I was playing. I've only picked that up in the last couple of years, and that really helps me stay incredibly healthy, helps maintain my weight. I've helped hundreds of people lose weight and get healthy, de-stress. So I'm loving now inspiring people with their health and wellness. So, the question you asked at the outset, what are you filling your days with now? I do a lot of that now. And I do believe it's coming to England in the next year or two. So look out for it. And if anyone wants to know more, reach out and I'll let you know.
Yeah, that'd be good. At the end of the show, I'll get you to give us all the links and ways we can contact you and find out all of this information, because I'm sure a lot of us will be interested to know about that. I noticed on your Twitter that you talk a lot about nutrition. Are there any kind of superfoods that you recommend people should be eating these days?
Well, aside from Isagenix, which I believe is the superest food, the most super food, Look, I think it's just all about eating as close to nature as possible. I'm not a vegan or a paleo, or I'm not gluten-free or I don't have any intolerances. I love food. I will eat all the time if I could. But I've always been lucky that even, again, 20 years ago, we didn't know what we know now. So I liked good food, luckily. I didn't have an issue with, really craving bad food. I would still have rubbish food here and there, but I actually really liked food that gave me energy. So a lot of protein, carbohydrates. I get a lot of my carbohydrates now from fruit and vegetables rather than from, the high calorie, low nutrient pasta or rice or anything like that. I use quinoa or or couscous, or just don't have it. Just have a pure protein with a lot of veg. And in Australia right now it's winter, so always cooking roast vegetables. Like the house always has a beautiful smell of roast veggies. So we eat very healthy, and we try and steer away from as much processed food as we can.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
More great knowledge coming up with Kerri Pottharst in just a moment. But I want to tell you that for you, the listeners of the Best in the World with Richard Parr podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. For you who listen to the Best in the World with Richard Parr, you know that I personally use Audible. You know that I've listened to many different books, from Daniel Bryan's Yes to most recently So You've Been Publicly Shamed by Jon Ronson, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, Quiet Leadership by Carlo Ancelotti, The Churchill Factor by Boris Johnson, What I Learned from Losing $1 Million by Jim Paul and Jack Schwager. So I like to use Audible. I haven't started my new book to listen to since I finished Jon Ronson's So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I've got 3 in the can right now, which I've already downloaded thanks to Audible. Maybe you may have listened to one of these 3, and maybe you'd like to give me your opinion of what I should listen to next. And you can do that by going to my Twitter. That's at Richard_Parr. Maybe tell me which audiobook I should be listening to. Maybe it's one of these 3, or perhaps you've got a completely different suggestion of what I could be listening to. I'd love to hear from you at Richard_Parr on Twitter. Send me a message also on the website, richardparr.net. So these 3 books are The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I can't say his name. I can't do it. I think it's Coelho. But then that sounds like the disease if you can't eat gluten, or is that a celiac? I'm very confused. It's spelled C-O-E, right? It's Paulo, you know the one I mean. Paulo Coelho? Coelho? Apologies, Paulo, if you're listening, or you're related to Paulo, or you know Paulo. Paulo Coelho, that's what I'm going with. It's The Alchemist. What I can say is the person who narrates it is a fantastic actor. It's Jeremy Irons. Can you imagine that? You're listening to an audiobook read by Jeremy Irons, like he's in the room with you. Wouldn't that be amazing? And that's what you can do on Audible. The other book I've got, again, this is all quite self-improvement, empowerment books. I don't listen to all these books all the time. Don't worry, people. But I do think they do help. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Oh, now I'm going to be told it's Tolle or Tolle or Tolle. I should really do this research before I do this little bit, shouldn't I? I'm going with Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, narrated by Eckhart Tolle. And the other book I've got is Mastery by Robert Greene. That's a lot easier to say. Thank you, Robert. Oh, at least I know how to pronounce that one. Although it's got an E on the end, it's not going to be Greeny. I know that. It's Greene. Robert Greene. And it's narrated by Fred Sanders. I'm not sure who that is, but I'm sure he's very good. It's Mastery by Robert Greene. So, should I listen to The Alchemist, The Power of Now, or Mastery, or something completely different that you recommend? Please let me know on my Twitter at Richard_Parr. I'm sure I will learn a lot from whichever audiobook I listen to next. And, you know, what we do on The Best in the World with Richard Parr is I offer you the chance of a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial, but I use the product myself. And I pay £7.99, that's pounds, £7.99 a month, and I get one free audiobook a month from that £7.99. You're thinking, oh, that's £8 per book. Some of these audiobooks, like the really thick ones, the big beasts like Mastery. Let me just check this while I've got my phone right here. I believe Mastery by Robert Greene is 16 hours long. 16 hours, 9 minutes. That is a hell of a book, right? That is massive. And that book, I can't remember, I think would normally cost at least £25. So if the book costs £25, but I'm paying £8 a month and I get that book, simple maths means I've just saved myself £17. So not only am I learning the lessons of mastery from Robert Greene, but I'm saving money at the same time. What a great deal that is. It's nearly as good as the deal for downloading a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial from Audible. All you've got to do is go to audibletrial.com/best. That's audibletrial.com/best. I know we want to get back to learning from Kerri Pottharst, so let's get to it.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
You mentioned about pasta and things like that. I saw that you played in Italy for one season. How was that? How did you cope with the language, the food, the culture?
Yeah, good one. Well, I didn't eat a lot of pasta. I liked the pizzas. They came and they were about the size of a, hula hoop almost. They love their pizza over there. I started drinking coffee when I first went over there. I never drank coffee before even. But that was before my beach volleyball career. So I actually played one season of professional indoor volleyball in Italy. And that was amazing. It was fantastic. I loved the girls. We had an Italian-speaking coach, so I literally had to teach myself to speak Italian out of a book. I had a couple of girls in the team that spoke English that helped me out. And by the end of it, like after 8 months, I spoke pretty good Italian. And I was even starting to think and dream in Italian. So it was a great experience. But when I came back to Australia a month later, it was when I completely wrecked my knee. And that is, a year after that is when I realised I couldn't play indoor anymore. I was hoping to go back to Italy, but I couldn't. And then I started to look at beach volleyball as an option, softer on the joints, and ended up going to 3 Olympics with beach volleyball and winning the 2 medals.
Yeah, an incredible turnaround from that knee injury. When you had that injury and you realised that you wouldn't be able to play indoor volleyball again, were you ever feeling really low and feeling depressed? And how would you get yourself out of it on those days?
Look, I really did go through a very hard time initially because it was such a serious injury. I had 3 surgeries to fix the damage. I was on a couch for a couple of months. I lost a lot of weight, lost a lot of muscle. I was getting pretty depressed and I was very lucky. I had a supportive boyfriend at the time, and he gave me a brand new white volleyball, in fact, and he came home one day and he gave it to me and I started crying. I thought, what am I going to do with that? I can't even walk. He said, on every panel of this ball, Kerri, I want you to write a goal. You know how the ball has panels on it? He wanted me to put a goal and put a date on it and then bit by bit work out a plan to get back to playing indoor volleyball again. And he was an indoor volleyball coach. So he really inspired me to set some goals, which I'd never done before in my life. And he inspired me to plan it out bit by bit and also then put some dates on it. And I think that was the most important thing, putting dates on the goals. And I learnt such a big lesson from that. And, as I said, I tried to make it back over the next 12 months, but I couldn't. But I had one panel on that ball actually said beach volleyball, so it was kind of like my saviour. So, when things go bad in your life, you really do need to sort of just sit back and go, okay, well, how can I make it better? What can I do? Let's, rather than wallow in the pain and the misery and, once you've got over whatever you've had to get over, or even if you haven't got over it, it's probably better still you haven't got over it, start planning how to make your life better. And, look back and work out bits bit by bit how you're going to get there. And if you don't know, just take the first step, and then the second step will show itself, and then the third step, and then you keep going as long as you have something in mind at the end of the road that you want to try and achieve. And most importantly, put some dates on it. And those dates might change over time, but at least you have a bit of a focus, and you can set the plan out, and you can even do some backwards planning from that date to where you are on the day, on today's date, and work out how to get there.
Well, that's an interesting way to think about it. I've not thought about that before. No, that's something good to know. And eventually, when you went into beach volleyball, your partner and your fellow gold medal winner was Natalie Cook. How did you come about making a team together? And what was it about your personalities that just made it click?
Well, Natalie was part of another team, and at the time I was playing with a friend of mine when I first started playing, and I saw Natalie and I thought, well, I just had this hunch that her and I would be good together. She had a lot of fire. She was a lot younger. She brought some real vitality and grit to our team, and I had, I guess, the maturity and the knowledge in the beginning, and she very quickly caught up. But I think what made us a great team was that we had a very a pinpoint shared goal. Like we exactly wanted to do the same thing over and over again. We never kind of said, well, I want this, and the other one said, well, I don't really want that, I want that. We were always like, yep, we both want that. Yep, we both want to do that. Yep, we both want to get to that event and win that event, or we want to top 4 in that event, or we want to, whatever the goal was. We were always on the same page, but we were two very different individuals. So we had to work really hard at our relationship and work out how we would get there. And that was a good thing, because then we had to plan it out, and then we had the ups and downs, and we had all the crises and the low points and the arguments, and we really went through a lot. But I think at the end of the day, our shared goal just kept driving us, and we're both very driven individuals. We're both very what's the word? We're confidently aggressive. So we're not, we're aggressive as in a good way, like we'll stand up and take the punch sort of thing, rather than hold back and go, well, maybe somebody else can step forward. Like we'll get up and go, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to hit the big winner, or I'm going to hit the ace. And it took us a while to kind of get to that point, but we both developed that confidence together, and it made a very strong team.
Very assertive. Just before we go, why don't you just tell us about what were your feelings and emotions in that last moment when you won the gold, and then when you were on the podium? You'd worked so hard for it. How did you feel?
So you can imagine I've been asked this question a lot of times, and it's the hardest question to answer, because first of all, it goes by in such a flash that you can't really even remember. But I think, when I watch the video and I try and connect to how I was feeling, it was just a mixture of everything, a mixture of pure, like, pride and joy and elation, and oh my God, I can't believe we've achieved this, right through to the relief, in a way, that everything we did, we were very confident. We were telling people this is what we were out to do. We were out to win gold on our home soil. That was our plan. And
did that help, by the way?
Well, I think it did, because we had to, because to be real to ourselves, why would we hold back? If you really, really want to achieve something, why wouldn't you tell somebody about it? Why would you hold back? Because for me, the reason people hold back is because they're afraid that they might not get there. So if we held back and said to people, oh, we're just going to do our best, that's a cop-out. To me, that's a cop-out. So when I see athletes being interviewed for the Olympics and they say, oh, yeah, we're going to have fun and just do our best and try and get a PB or whatever, it's like, well, why don't you just take it by the whatever and say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to win this thing? And there are people that do that, and there are 3 different types of Olympians, and not everybody has that confidence, and it's the people with that confidence that will win, but not all the time, but most of the time. So there's the Olympian that just goes for the tracksuit. They're the ones that are so happy that they've qualified. They're just going to go there and they're going to do their best, but they're just there for the tracksuit. They qualified, which is an amazing achievement to get to an Olympic Games. And then there are the Olympians that go there and they actually really go there to get a medal. They know that they're in the top, maybe 5 or so in the world, and they've got a good chance of getting a medal. And then there are the Olympians, and this is what Natalie and I were in Sydney, and we went there to win the thing, and that was it. Like, there was no other. We're not settling for bronze again. We're not going for silver. We're going for the gold. Like, after winning bronze in Atlanta, there was no way we could come back and then just say, oh, well, hopefully we'll get another medal. It was like, no, we're going to turn that into gold now. We're going to do it. And it was on our home soil, and it was, and we felt like by the end of the games, by the time, the last match, the final, we kind of felt like the whole stadium was behind us. When we walked out for the first match, we nearly lost it because we were so overawed by the emotion of the crowd when we lost a point, because when we won a point, it was really loud. And then when we lost a point, it was like, oh, you poor things. And that was loud as well. So we nearly kind of shot ourselves in the foot because we kind of really connected with their emotion. But by the end of it, we learnt, by the end of that sort of 2-week period, we learnt to connect with the positive emotion and really feel like they were pushing us up. So every time there was an opportunity for something negative to take us down, we turned it into a positive. And I think that's what I tend to do these days really, really well. If something happens in my life or in someone else's life that I'm coaching or helping, I try and turn it into a positive. If they throw a negative at me, and I'll try my hardest to turn that into a positive, because there is a positive in everything. And it really, whatever you focus on is what will become.
Well, Kerri, I've absolutely loved this chat with you. It's inspiring and motivating, and will certainly get people to get off their chairs and go for what they want and set those goals and make those dreams come true. So if people want to continue to follow what you're up to, could you maybe give some Twitter addresses, some website addresses, and anywhere else that we can continue to follow what you're teaching? Maybe if people want to book you for motivational speaking or be able to buy a book, please tell us how we can keep learning this great knowledge from you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Richard. Well, as you said, my website's not that well up to date because I use social media. But my website it has links to my book and also email links, which is just info@kerripotharst.com. That's my email if anyone wants to write to me. But my website is obviously kerripotharst.com. So that's KERRIPOTTHAR, S for Sam, T for Tom.com. And I am on Twitter exactly as my name, Kerri Pottharst. I'm also on Facebook exactly as my name. There's a couple of other pages that aren't me, but my profile is me. And it's an open profile, so you can follow me if you want. And just today, I decided that I'm going to start using Instagram.
Oh,
so
cool.
When you know it, you see me on Instagram as my name as well. And if anybody wants to know more about Isagenix coming into the UK, that's a big thing too. So there's opportunities there for health, but there's also wealth. So it's a business opportunity as well. So more than happy to talk to people about that if they want to email me, info@kerripotharst.com.
That'd be brilliant. Well, Kerri, thank you so much for being on the show. We've definitely learnt a lot from you, and we'll continue to follow what you're up to on all those versions of social media. Kerri Pottharst, thank you for being the best in the world.
Thank you.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
I think we all can agree we've learnt so much from Kerri Pottharst on the podcast. Thank you so much to her for coming onto the show. And don't forget, we've got so many great guests that we've had on the show before. Please go back to iTunes, listen and learn from the best. Download these episodes. All you've got to do is go to richardparr.net/iTunes. If you listen on an Apple phone, on an iPhone or on an iPad or anything like that, that's richardparr.net/iTunes. When you're on iTunes, if you can give me a rating and a review, I'd really appreciate it. It helps boost the show, and it also gets me to learn your feedback on what you like about the show or what you don't like, so we can continue to evolve and improve this podcast. If you don't have an iPhone or an iPad and you use an Android phone, you can always listen to the show on Stitcher. If you're not already doing so on Stitcher, all you've got to do is go to richardparr.net/Stitcher. Both of those links will take you directly to the place where you can listen to the best in the world. Some of the Olympic champions we've had on the show before include Ellen Hoog, part of the Netherlands hockey Olympic team. We've had Etienne Stott, who won gold at the last Olympics in canoeing. We've had Darren Campbell, a former 4x100 metres Olympic gold medalist. Another hockey Olympic gold medalist in John Potter. Shannon Miller, you may remember from the Magnificent Seven USA gymnastics team. We've got so many great people. Richard Folds, only 2 weeks ago, the shooting Olympic champion from the Sydney 2000 Games. All of these people you can learn from. We've got other world champions, other former world number ones, other former world record holders or current world record holders. They're all on the best in the world with Richard Parr. Please go back and listen to them, as well as on iTunes, as well as on Stitcher. They're on richardparr.net. And please send me a message if you've got anything you want to say about the show on Twitter at Richard_Parr. On the Facebook page, the best, well, not the best, but Best in the World with Richard Parr on Facebook. And of course, you can contact me on the website richardparr.net. Thank you so much for listening. Continue to enjoy the Olympic Games. Marvel at the brilliance and hard work that some of these people have put into their lives and their careers just for that one moment at the Olympic Games. Try and learn from them, because that's what we'll continue to do on the Best in the World.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.